How long were Aaron and his sons to be consecrated? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Exodus on Walking Through the Bible.
Of his word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Exodus 29. We're going to be reading verses 31 to 37. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Exodus 29, beginning at verse 31. And you shall take the ram of the consecration and boil its flesh in the holy place. Then Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket by the door of the tabernacle of meeting. They shall eat those things with which the atonement was made, to consecrate and to sanctify them. But an outsider shall not eat them, because they are holy. And if any of the flesh of the consecration offerings, or of the bread, remains until the morning, you shall burn the remainder with fire. It shall not be eaten, because it is holy. Thus you shall do to Aaron and his sons according to all that I have commanded you. 7 days you shall consecrate them, and you shall offer a bull every day as a sin offering for atonement. You shall cleanse the altar when you make atonement for it, and you shall anoint it to sanctify it. 7 days you shall make atonement for the altar and sanctify it, and the altar shall be most holy. Whatever touches the altar must be holy. In this chapter, we still have Moses on Mount Sinai receiving instructions from God as to how to build the sanctuary and how to set up the priesthood. In chapters 25 through 27, we had the building of the sanctuary. We had instructions on how to build the Ark of the Covenant and mercy seat, how to build the showbread table, how to build the golden lampstand and the altar of burnt offering, and where they would be placed in the sanctuary. We also had the instructions for how to build the tabernacle itself, including the holy place and the most holy place, as well as the court of the tabernacle. In chapter 28, we had the instructions for the priestly garments. There was a difference between the high priest's garments and the common priest's garments. However, both were special garments that would sanctify them from among the people. Coming to the first 37 verses of this chapter, then, we have God's instructions for consecrating Aaron and his sons as priests. We have already discussed how they were to bring 1 young bull and 2 rams without blemish, along with unleavened bread, unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil. Aaron and his sons were then to be washed, after which Aaron would be clothed in the high priest's garments and anointed with oil as high priests. Aaron's sons were then to be clothed in their priestly garments and consecrated as priests as well. They were then to receive their sashes, and Aaron's sons their hats, and become the priests of the Lord, a priesthood that was to remain in their family for as long as the law of Moses stood. After this, Aaron and his sons were to collectively sacrifice a bull as a sin offering to the Lord, and then offer the first ram as a burnt offering to the Lord. As for the second ram, it was known as the ram of consecration. Some of the blood of it would be placed on the holy garments, as well as the right ear, the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of the right foot of Aaron and his sons. Certain portions of the ram were then to be waved before the Lord as a wave offering, following which those pieces would be burned on the altar as a burnt offering. The breast of the ram was in this case to be Moses's, which, after he presented it as a wave offering, he could eat it. All of this brings us to verse 31 of the chapter, continuing on with the ram of consecration. What was left of the ram of consecration, namely the rest of its flesh, was to be boiled in the holy place. The flesh was then to be eaten by Aaron and his sons, along with the bread that was still in the basket by the door of the tabernacle of meeting. As we discussed in the last episode, the priest's work was in the tabernacle. They did not own land on which to farm, nor did they have much of anything with which to trade for food. So the Lord provided for the priests because they were doing work for him and for the people. In this case, that which was used in the consecration ceremony was theirs to partake of. An outsider, in other words, someone who was not a priest, was not to eat of them because these things were holy, due to the fact that they were used in the consecration ceremony. Any of the flesh or the bread that was left over until morning was to be burned because it was holy. The idea here is that since these things were holy, they were not to be used as leftovers or snacks. They were to be used in the proper manner. This was the ceremony of consecration for Aaron and his sons. There was a lot of detail given, and which must have been followed in order for Aaron and his sons to be consecrated and holy before God, ready to work in his sanctuary. But lest we think that this was a one-day ceremony, it wasn't. It was repeated for 7 days. Only after that they would be fully consecrated. The number 7 in the Bible represents completeness, and so it is likely that this ceremony was accomplished 7 times in order for Aaron and his sons to be completely consecrated. When the sacrifices were offered each day, the altar was to be cleansed and sanctified. We will get more of what this entailed when we study Leviticus chapter 8. The reason given for doing this is that the altar was to be most holy, and therefore whatever touches the altar must be holy. Holiness is important when it comes to worshiping God, something that Christians should be reminded of as well. With that, our time is up today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Exodus chapter 29, verses 38 to 46, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
I'm not ashamed.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.